What has surprised you about resilience in all of your years of study?
Recovery is essential to be resilient. Military family life is a team sport and we need each other.
So I would love to transition to resentment. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait to learn from you.
Resentment it's unmet expectation and also from like feeling out of control. So
Yes. Wow.
my resentment built when I felt like I was sacrificing my career. It was hard for me to see some of my prior colleagues like advancing on to get these big gigs and do these great things and be recognized, and I'm getting slapped in the face by a toddler.
Yeah.
So
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Long Distance Friends. I could not be more excited for our guest today. She just captures everything that I am hoping for long distance friends and the kind of expert that we can all learn from and lean on. Michelle Kirk is a doctorate-level performance psychology professional who has spent more than a decade helping military leaders, soldiers, and families build resilience and perform under pressure. She worked with the U.S. Army in roles ranging from leadership coaching and resilience training to developing suicide prevention and deployment support programs. In addition to her experience working with military populations, she's coached sports from youth to college level, worked at several universities across the country teaching sports psychology, principles of behavior change, and coaching courses. She continues to coach athletes and consult with parents and coaches to help enhance resilience and performance in sport and life. Michelle has earned a PhD in performance psychology, a master's degree in exercise science, and is a certified master resilience trainer and mindfulness sport performance enhancement instructor. Michelle is a military spouse of 10 plus years. In those 10 years, Michelle and her husband have logged 6 cross-country moves, along with having and raising 4 children. Through this lived experience, Michelle has developed a passion for supporting military spouses as they navigate the challenges and opportunities of military life, including deployment and heavy TDY, relocation, finding community and maintaining connections, and meeting one's own needs while always in the service of others. Michelle, oh my gosh, welcome to Long Distance Friends. Thank you for being here.
thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for the conversation.
How does it feel hearing someone read your bio like that? Is it just like, wow, I really have done some cool things with my life?
Well, hearing someone read your bio, it's uncomfortable, right? You're just like sitting there and listening to someone talk about you, which for me, that's
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But I would say like when putting together a bio, it's reaffirming of a life that I've lived. And maybe you can
Yeah.
relate, like, because sometimes we get pigeonholed into one identity. Like I'm my husband's spouse, the leader's
Yeah.
spouse. I'm a mom. I'm this
Yeah.
person's mom. And so to remember that I have done things in my past, or I have lived a life and achieved some things for myself outside of those roles, which I love and I'm grateful for, that is something that does like kind of help build me up and remind me that I'm more than just these singular identities.
Wow. That's so good. That's so true. Not only do you have your master's, you also have your PhD, which is a ton of years of work. And so what led you to dedicating yourself so fiercely to studying resilience? Did this start way back for you in high school, or what
Yeah.
about your journey led you on that track?
Yeah, I love the way you're asking that question because that track was led by my journey. In high
Yeah.
school, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. My kids
Yeah.
just had career day in elementary school, and I was like, how can they possibly know? I'm still, switching things up. And so, yeah, I mean, in generally speaking, though, I think it did start back at an early age because I was just I was an athlete in junior
Hmm.
high school, and I was just always a pretty driven person, and so I was very motivated to be the best. Like I wanted to be my best, but I also wanted to be the best, and so I was just kind of haphazardly like figuring that out. Like how do I be and become the best? And so that
Hmm.
kind of led this interest in studying like human behavior and human performance.
Mm.
I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but I was like
Yeah.
figuring it out. And then in college, I played college basketball and um, so that drive stayed with me, and I was a captain. So then became more interested in like leadership and how do I help bring the best out of others. But then it came time to deciding a major, and I was like, I don't know, I'm just here to play basketball.
Yeah,
And so
right.
so when deciding a major, I was like, well, I want to be the best. I'm, really into achievement. So exercise
Yep.
science seemed to be a great place to study. So I became more intentional in studying like how to train the body to optimize performance. And so that's where I was at that time. But then when I went into grad school for my master's degree, I started in exercise science, and then I was introduced to the field of sports psychology. And
Mm.
I was just like, what? Like, what is this? Like, I had no
Yeah,
idea. I was told, all my years as an athlete to be mentally tough and, you've got
sure.
to, be, mentally strong. But it was never really broken down in such a way that, like, it was a trainable skill or a trainable thing. And so when
Hmm.
I learned about that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to study. This was like the missing piece for me as an athlete. And
Cool.
so yeah, so that's kind of where it shifted, and I started to study more systematically, um, the I guess the drivers behind human performance, the psychology behind it, and then that led me to my first job in the field with the Army at West Point. I was working for the Center for Enhanced Performance, and then that led me to resilience training, and then I became a military spouse, and I saw a whole new side of, living with resilience and what that really means outside of performance, but like in your life. So, yeah, that's kind of how my path and experiences led me through and towards studying resilience and performance psychology in general.
Wow. Yeah, that's such a good point. You are told your whole life as a young athlete, just go through, just grind through, just, block everything out. And so that it's so fascinating to hear you talk about it because I was a track and cross country runner.
Mm.
The person in our world who was like our idol was Steve Prefontaine. And
Mhm.
he's famous for having quotes like, I just Googled it to refresh my brain. So the quotes that I idolized as a runner were a lot of people run a race to see who is fastest. I run to see who has the most guts. Or to give anything less than your best is to sacrifice the gift.
Mhm.
Or somebody may beat me, but they're going to have to bleed to do it. Or I'm going to work so that it's a pure guts race at the end. And if it is, I am the only one who can win it. Which are epic quotes.
Mhm.
Those are the quotes that I like grew up on as a runner. And so
Mhm.
I think for in my brain, and I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but for me, when I was training, it was push out everything, push out all physical comfort, lock in, push out all the discomfort, and you're going to grind it out. And if you're not throwing up at the end of a race or
Mhm.
almost blacking out, then you did not try hard enough. And
Mhm.
so that was,
Mhm.
that was how, what I equated to grit and
Mhm.
what I equated to resilience. And so I'm curious throughout your years of study, how do you actually define resilience and how maybe is it different than grit or what has surprised you about resilience in all of your years of study?
Mm. I feel like that's a loaded question,
Yes.
just because
No pressure.
I don't have an easy answer. I think, I mean, the first thing that I think is like those quotes and that like line of teaching about grit and resilience, mental toughness. Like, did that serve you well as an athlete?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it
So it
did.
helped you to achieve.
Yes.
Did you ever
Right.
find? Did you ever find that it didn't serve you well outside of athletics, or maybe even inside
Oh yeah.
athletics? Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. I think it helped me be a really good runner, but I
Mhm.
don't know if that I think it this is a really good question. I think it did help me because it helped me there were pieces of it that were you build your tough skin right?
Mhm.
But I
Mhm.
don't know if I had the, but I think it came at the expense of me listening to my body and
Mhm.
listening to my, like when my tank is on E and I'm starting to run
Mhm.
empty in life, when it's
Mhm.
okay to like rest
Mhm.
and take a
Mhm.
break and reset and
Mhm.
listen to my body.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, does that
Yeah.
make sense?
So absolutely. And I think that's the answer I would give is that
Yeah.
I think resilience and mental toughness and grit, they're just commonly misunderstood because everyone has their own definition. And even in like the scientific papers, there's like hundreds of definitions. There's actually an article about all the definitions of resilience. And so there's not a
Wow.
consensus on just one, but like your coach probably had his or her own definition of mental toughness that they were operating and coaching out of. My coach
Mm-hmm.
had one, I had one. And so, but I think ultimately, like those concepts, which are similar, different, but similar, there's two sides to the coin. And a lot of times the side that's preached the most is the, push through, never stop until you're bleeding or puking,
Yep.
embrace the suck, that sort of thing.
Yep.
So in like the military and in sport, that's the side that's pushed the
Mm,
most. And what's neglected is the side of rest, recovery, listening to your
yep.
body and its needs. And I think that's like you said it perfectly when you said at the expense of. And
Yes.
so, what can help facilitate performance over the long run can lead to burnout and it can lead to impaired well being.
Mm.
If we're not flipping the coin sometime, regularly, I wouldn't even
Mm-hmm.
say sometimes, but regularly. And I know we might be getting to that when we talk about, what fuels resilience. But so yeah, as far as like a definition, there's multiple like scientific definitions, but I think kind of using what you just said, it's both. It's the building a capacity to handle stress, handle adversity, handle pressure, cope with
Mm-hmm.
it effectively, um, and recover from that adverse experience, recover, learn from it, grow through that experience. So that's kind of the definition that I've adopted. It's also pretty similar to what the military states as their resilience definition. But again, generally the emphasis is always on the latter, the pushing, the
Yeah.
striving versus the resting recovery.
Wow. That is so fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. And it's interesting to hear that there's so many definitions of resilience because
Hmm.
you would think it would be as simple as the ability to push through.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? But the fact that
yeah.
it's been studied so intensely and people have such different takeaways is fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's also, I mean, like grit, that definition, the ability to push through and persevere, that's
Yeah.
kind of a definition for grit. There's also like social resilience, physical resilience, emotional resilience. Like you can even break it down in domains. So it's more complex than just one simple definition.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you find are the parallels between sports performance, like we've been talking about, and resilience as a military family or as a military spouse? And what do we actually need to be capable of being resilient?
Well, I think there's the parallels are that in sport and in life, and especially in military spouse or military family life, you're going to face challenges. You're going to face
Yeah.
adversity. You're going to have to perform or execute under pressure. And
Mm-hmm.
so the parallel is needing to be able to cope with that adversity and effectively manage that stress. And so I think similarities are also like the same skills or strategies you might use in sport would be relevant to life. Like in sport, before I was a
Mm-hmm.
basketball player, you were
Mm-hmm.
a runner. Before the gun went off, to signal the start of the race, before I was shooting a free throw, you might take a deep breath. You
Yep.
might like regain your physical and mental composure, right? Well, as a military spouse, I need to take deep breaths a lot. When my husband tells me where his orders are, and I'm like, where is that?
I ain't going to Fort Polk.
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
or as a
You are. No.
mom, I take deep breaths a lot as a mom.
Mm-hmm.
When my husband's deployed or TDY for the nth time that month.
Mhm.
So yeah, so the skills and strategies that you would use, in a sport arena, you can definitely use and utilize in life. But I also found like it's one of the differences is, well, I mean, this is true for sport too, but it's just not as easy. Like in sport, the consequences are winning or losing, and when you are tied up in your athlete identity, which I was, winning and
Mhm.
losing was everything. It was my
Right.
life. But
Right.
now that I have this broader perspective and I've worked with the military, with soldiers,
Mhm.
and I'm living the life, as a military spouse, now the consequences are like bigger, right? I mean, in the service member world, it's life or death. In the military spouse world, it could be as well. But it's also, just
Mhm.
I guess it's just not as easy. So like,
Yeah.
I think that was something I had to
Your
realize because
family's well-being is,
yes,
at
yeah.
stake, right? Like, if you're the spouse that's kind of holding down the home front and you're not okay or you can't get through it, that totally affects your kids and
Mhm.
their well-being, right? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. I think another big difference is that, in sport, recovery is like built into the training plan.
Mm.
There's like periodization and there's seasons of rest or just like lower intensity. But like the
Yeah.
military life, like sometimes,
Wow.
sometimes your spouse, like the service member, might have a family friendly assignment. And it truly is.
Yes.
It's a
Right.
schoolhouse or it's a non deployable
Mhm.
unit. Um, but generally speaking, we don't get periods of rest and recovery. We have to find them. We have to find ways to kind of micro recover. But it's not built in. And in fact, it's almost like, culturally, it's you're weak if you take time off, you're
Yeah.
weak if you, rest is for the weary sort of approach. So I think those are some differences that we as military spouses, as just, military family members, we have to, it's kind of like working against us. So we have to show up and do the work to not like succumb to that mentality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally makes sense. What else do we need to be capable of being resilient?
hmm Yeah, so this is something that's kind of been a revelation for me just this past year, I think. So for many years, I was teaching and training and, advocating resilience, cope effectively, manage the stress, do the things. Um,
Mhm.
but it was this idea that recovery is essential to be resilient because,
Wow.
I mean, think of the days that you were just depleted just from life or, as a mom, like your energy, you
Mhm.
literally don't have energy to manage and cope with the stress. Like the days that, I'm running on empty, maybe because I didn't sleep well, maybe because I wasn't eating well, whatever it was, I'm easier to lose my patience with my kids. I'm, easier to say something that I don't mean. I'm not handling the stress as well because I literally and physiologically don't have the energy for it.
Yep.
And so I think that's been a revelation I've had in this current season of my life is that it might not be a resilience problem. It might not be that you don't have the skills to be resilient. It might be you don't have the capacity to be
Sure.
resilient. And so the
Yeah.
focus for me right now, and like when I'm helping um, people or speaking on this, I'm now like focused. I think we're especially like in my peer group, like we're all worn out. We're just like burnt out. And it's not that we don't
Mhm.
have the resilience, it's that the capacity has been depleted over the years or
Yeah.
months or weeks. So yeah, to get to the answer to that question, I believe like what we need is to be investing our time into recovering and recuperating our energy on a daily,
Mhm.
weekly basis so that we can engage in those resilient behaviors.
Yeah. Yeah. What does that look like for you?
Mm. Um, some weeks it doesn't look like anything, which is why
Yeah.
I'm depleted. But uh, What that looks like for me, well, like this morning, I took my son, my 6-year-old out. We live like right next to the Chesapeake Bay. And so I took him out on the
Oh.
water on the kayak and
Oh,
just,
it's beautiful.
yes, it was gorgeous. And what I wanted to do was be, preparing for this podcast and cleaning the house and doing
Sure.
things, but just kind of forcing myself to prioritize my health and my
Yeah.
needs to just like unplug and do
Mhm.
something that brings me joy. And so yeah, I think it's a lot of things and it can be different for everyone, but it's like asking yourself like, what do I need? I
Yeah.
think we communicated about that earlier in email, but what do I need
Mhm.
right now? And also realizing, like we were talking about a little bit earlier about resilience, there's different domains of resilience, like physical,
Mhm.
emotional, spiritual, social. And so like
Yeah.
kind of monitoring which one of those domains am I really depleted in. And so if it's maybe it's physical, I need sleep. I need
Yes.
physical rest.
Yes.
Um,
I need to drink
maybe
water.
yes, I need to drink water. Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe it's spiritual. Maybe like
Mhm.
I need to go to church this week, or I need to spend
Mm.
time journaling this week. Maybe it's social. I'm feeling like I haven't really connected with a friend or a family member for a long time. So
Yeah.
it's like becoming aware and attuned to like which area or domain of my life do I need some reboot, and then just committing to and allowing yourself to take the time to recover that.
Yeah. That's so good. What are the say the domains again? We've got physical,
I might miss
spiritual.
some, but physical, mental, and emotional, spiritual, social. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
more. I mean, there's also like financial resilience, but I think as a human, like well-being wise, those are the main ones that come to mind: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you are a whole person. You're a whole
Yes.
person, and
Yeah.
all these different parts of you need nurtured and tended to. And um, yeah, you can't ignore that. As we function through life as a human being, and as a human
Mhm.
being, those are the things.
Mhm.
Those are
Mhm.
the areas that we literally need. And
Right.
so to push through life, we're trying to do it without friends or trying to do it without adequate sleep. That's not how we're meant to function at all.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so honoring that um, is it's such a good reminder. Um, One of the things that I have had to learn, I've been a huge people pleaser my whole life.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I tuned out was, what do I want in this moment? What do I
Mhm.
need in this moment? What would feel good to me right now?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so there would be times when um, my husband, Nate, would take the kids out of the house. My girls are 3 and 1. And I would just kind of stand there. What do
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
do?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would like, should I go do the dishes? Should I go clean? Should I put the laundry away? And it's just like, I'm so used to like tending to everything that
Mhm.
to have the girls out of the house is like, whoa, like I can
Mhm.
really like, like I can do something for me now.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's just been interesting growing that, growing that skill of like, what would actually feel really
Mhm.
good for me right now?
Mhm.
And every day it's different. Some days it's, I'm just gonna take the dogs and I'm gonna go walk by myself and just pop
Mhm.
in my headphones and listen to something. The other day, this is hilarious, and I never thought I would say this, but it was Mother's Day the other day, and I was like, what would feel really good for me right now? Actually, what I would genuinely enjoy is cleaning my house in peace, which don't come after me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, I would actually feel really good to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And so I did. And I was like, I
Yeah.
never thought that I would be folding clothes on Mother's Day.
Yeah.
But here I am, and I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it. And
Yeah.
so sometimes self-care, what I've learned is like it's not always a bubble bath, right? It's
Right.
not always doing nothing.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's investing in yourself in ways that it might feel like work or it might feel like effort, but what it it still pours into you and it still
Mhm.
energizes you. Like for me,
Mhm.
this podcast is a huge one for me. Like for other
Mhm.
people, it might seem like work, but for me, I literally produce this show during my kids' nap time every day.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I could go take a nap, and some days I do, a lot of days I do, but a lot of days I'm working on this, and this is what actually energizes me
Right.
and fills me up for the rest of the day or the rest of the week. This interview
Mhm.
right now is going to give me so much energy
Yeah.
and excitement the rest of the week.
Yeah.
And so all that to say, I would love to hear what you've learned
Yeah.
about self-care and
Yeah.
your takeaways about what self-care
Yeah.
actually is.
Yeah. Well, I think you just gave some great examples and conceptualized it really well. Yeah, for me personally, I've re-engaged in working out. So just
Yeah.
exercising. I love strength training. It's kind of like connecting me, grounding me back into my athletic identity, which has been fun. Um,
Wait, can I pause you there? When
yeah.
you say re-engaged in working out, did you have to take a break, a
Um,
breather?
well, I mean that through 4 pregnancies in 6 years,
Yeah.
or, I guess it was 8 years, I don't know.
Yes.
I had back-to-back pregnancies.
Okay.
I had 3 under 3 for
Oh, God
like a month or
bless.
2. So I just
Woo.
I
Yes.
wanted to be the mom that was super active in pregnancies and still running and all that, but I wasn't. And
Wow.
so yeah, I guess by re-engage, what I mean is
Okay.
I'm reprioritizing it.
Got
And
it.
that actually was a step for me because um, I would feel guilty for asking for that time. Like Dennis, my husband, like,
Hmm.
can you watch the kids so I can go do a workout?
Yeah.
Or like if a kid is napping or kids are gone or out of the house, like I should be doing something that's going to
Mm.
benefit everyone. So for me, kind of circling back to self-care, it's just like prioritizing my physical needs of exercise.
Hmm.
And that's also a mental, it's benefited my mental health as well. So for me, it's exercise, it's strength training or going for walks. I've kind of dialed down on like the intensity of training.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy that as much right now. I have enough stress in my life. So I like the low intensity
Yeah.
exercise right now.
Low
But
cortisol exercise.
yes, yes, I'm at that age and stage. But
That's so great.
what I also want to point out that you shared, well, there was a few things, but you shared that self-care does not have to be these like fancy things or the bubble baths, the spa nights, and that sort of thing. Um, so one thing that I think that you pointed out is that like doing what feels good for you, but also thinking of what it's going to do for you or maybe bring for you.
Yes.
Like, maybe folding clothes. Maybe you do enjoy folding clothes and no
I
judgment,
don't.
but
I literally do
okay,
not.
okay. But you knew that cleaning your house would give you
Yeah.
this feeling of satisfaction and you get to
Yes.
enjoy the cleanliness of the house. And
Mhm.
so it was a productive self-care behavior because
Mm.
it added relief for you. And I think something that I've been more cognizant of um this past season of life is to make the right choice when I have the time to engage in self-care. Like you, so I've been in those moments where like I actually like have this time. I'm like, what do I do? Like my kids, my
Yeah.
I I sent my third kid to kindergarten this year, so now I only have one at
Oh,
home, which
wow.
was like a game changer. I was used to having multiple kids and
Yeah.
you know, anyway, so when that happened and then I had a kid napping, I was like, what do I do with this time? And I would find myself, laying on the couch watching TV and scrolling social media. And I
Yeah.
enjoy both of those activities, and there's nothing wrong with those activities. But
Mhm.
in a sense that wasn't really adding energy to me. It was still,
Mhm.
especially the social media, was still taking some energy, emotional energy, especially when get the comparisons or the,
Mhm.
life comparison stuff. But yeah, my point is though that like when you have that time or when you make that time is also thinking of like what would be an effective way to engage in self-care. Sometimes it is binging TV.
Yeah.
But for me, I have to catch myself to be like, do I really need that today? Or would I be
Mhm.
more fulfilled in engaging in a hobby,
Mhm.
whether it's reading a book or working on a passion project or going for that walk or doing something that I know will benefit me more long term than just
Mhm.
in this moment?
Mm. That's awesome. Yeah. something I've been studying is intuitive eating, and I promise I'm gonna
Mm,
make this circle. But with intuitive eating, the baseline where you have to start is foundationally um removing all diet culture and
that's easy.
allowing yourself allowing yourself to eat whatever you want. No food is bad food. Eat whatever you
Hmm.
want. That's
Hmm.
the very first step in the whole process. And there's like a whole arc. But
Hmm.
that's the first step. Um and then I'm not an intuitive eating expert, but as I understand it, as you go along, you start to, from that foundation of freedom, you start to listen to your body and learn to eat what actually makes you feel good.
Mm,
And so you strip away all other voices, all other all other calorie counters, all other outside data, and you solely focus on, okay, did that make my body feel good?
mhm,
Was I satiated? Was I energized? And then you
mhm,
start to evolve your diet from that.
mhm.
So I think it's really similar to the
Yeah, I do
self-care
too.
conversation,
Yes.
because you
Yeah.
have to, especially if you're a high achieving athlete, right?
Mhm,
And you have to learn self-care. Um and you have to learn how to take care of your body. Almost have to start from that place of, I'm
mhm.
allowed to take a nap.
Right, exactly.
I'm allowed to watch TV, and that's not bad.
Right,
But then from that place of freedom, you can build things back in. Oh, maybe I don't actually want to scroll for 3 hours.
right. Yes.
Maybe I do want to go take a walk, or maybe I do want to, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so I just think that correlation is fascinating.
Yes, yeah, and I like that. It's kind of another thing I think about is, like, kind of ridding yourself of this idea that there's bad choices, but, like, is there a
Hmm.
better choice? So,
Is it
like,
beneficial?
laying
Yeah.
on the couch might not be a bad choice, but, like, is there a better choice for me today? But no,
Hmm.
I think intuitive self-care, I like that. I might start seeing it that way too.
That's awesome. So I would love to transition to resentment. I'm so excited for this. I can't wait to learn from you. Um, so, and I alluded to this a little bit earlier, but I became a military spouse as a young 24-year-old. And I was working full time when my husband joined the army. And so when he was gone, and he would be gone for months at a time, especially at the beginning, it was hard, but I was busy, and I was
Mhm,
at work full time. So the days
mhm,
would kind of go by,
mhm,
and they'd go by fast, right? And I would be able to get through that pretty well.
mhm,
And then we had kids.
mhm, mhm,
And I became a stay-at-home mom. And now when he's gone, I really start to feel that slow clock, that slow
mhm,
ticking by. And so that for me was when resentment started to creep in.
mhm,
And surprisingly, and this may be just a personal thing, but for me, the hardest part is not actually when he's completely gone or deployed or
mhm,
on training somewhere. It's actually the day to day when he says he's going to be home by 6, or he's going to try to be home by 6, and something popped up and he can't, and he's home at
mhm,
7.
mhm,
And it's been a long day, and I just want to have dinner with my kids, and I want us to go on a family walk.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so because when he's gone, I have no expectations of him. I'm like, okay,
Right.
I'm in charge. We're running this thing. You know what I mean? But when he's supposed to be home, right?
Mhm,
That's when those expectations can get crushed, because you have
mhm.
expectations, right?
Exactly. Yes, yeah.
And so for you, when did you start to feel that resentment as a military spouse, of 10
Mhm.
plus years? When did you start to feel that creep in? And
Yeah.
what have you learned about resentment?
Yeah. A lot. And I will just like one thing I've learned about resentment, and it's yeah, I'm hearing you share it too, is like resentment is it's unmet expectations. I mean,
Yeah.
that it's fueled by unmet expectations um and also from like feeling out of control.
Mm.
And so
Yes. Wow.
you know, I've learned more since then too, but I think for me, I share kind of a similar story as yours in the sense that like the resentment wasn't there in the beginning, but it's been kind of a slow build
Mm.
I as we had kids, as the sacrifices seemed to be greater, as the predictability seemed to be, even worse, or less predictable. Because when my husband and I got married, I think I was 31 or 32. So I'd, lived a decade of life and I was very independent. And when we got married, I actually like the benefits outweighed the sacrifice because I then left full-time work. And that's when I pursued my doctorate degree and I got to use some of his GI Bill. So I was like
Mm.
living it up as a military spouse,
Sure. Yeah.
And so I think for me, when I started to perceive, it's not fully like accurate, but I started to perceive the sacrifices outweighing benefits. And I'm going to come back to correct that, but it was my perception that like all I'm doing
Mm.
is sacrificing.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, you know, so it was like a slow build. I think probably when after I finished my doctorate degree, I did get some part-time work, but for me, the biggest way resentment has shown up was not necessarily towards my husband and more towards just the military life. I wouldn't even say to the army, but to the military life was that just the sacrifices I had to make on my career because I did have 10 years of building a career in sports psychology and coaching. And I mean, I wouldn't say climbing, there's not like a ladder to climb, but I was achieving, doing well in my career. From my standards. And then I was getting my PhD, which
Definitely.
was kind of like going to be advancing it, like
Yeah. It's
after
a
this
big deal.
PhD. Um, but then it was actually like I had 3 kids during my doctorate
Oh
degree.
my gosh.
But then I had this PhD, but I also had 3 kids. And so
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and this could be, just for parents, moms in general. It doesn't have to be military spouse, but because our service members are married to the military too,
Yeah.
and that's the first priority. Um, my resentment built when I felt like I was sacrificing my career and my career
Yeah.
ambitions, and then I would
Yeah.
see, it was hard for me to see some of my prior colleagues like advancing on to get these big gigs and do these great things and be recognized. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm here changing diapers and
Mm-hmm.
picking. Chicken nuggets off the floor. Um,
Yep.
and then seeing my spouse, seeing my husband achieving so much greatness and being
Yeah.
recognized and
Yep.
respected. And I'm getting slapped in the face by a toddler.
Yeah.
So, um,
Oh
I mean,
man.
in a
Yep.
sense, I think what helped me through those years was grounding, like finding a posture of surrender. So my faith and my
Mm.
spirituality is important to me, and so
Mm-hmm.
seeing that whole process, this whole life experience I was having as like a journey through like sanctification and just like
Mm.
um yeah, I think I had to look at it differently. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was stripping me from my ego. So it wasn't my husband's fault. It wasn't even the military's fault. I just had to like die to myself and my ego, and embrace, you know, the life God had for me and the life I prayed for. That was the
Yeah.
ironic thing. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
but I think it's easy for resentment to
Mm.
build in this military life, when there's deployments, when there is PCSing and picking up your life and starting over and having to leave a place you loved. And, there's those big things of military life that resentment can start to creep in, but it can also be in the small ways. I mean, I can find myself getting bitter in the past. Now I'm doing a better job, but like where my husband got to wake up and do PT every morning and I'm
Yeah.
like, when am I supposed to exercise? It's not
Yeah.
that easy for me. But
Yep.
for him, he got to say it's part of my job. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but technically it should be part of my job as a mom. I need to be healthy. But I didn't get that
Mm-hmm.
time. And so, So resentment is unmet expectations, but it's also unspoken frustrations. And I think
Yeah.
for me, like what I've learned in the last couple of years has been to communicate better with my spouse. And like when I'm feeling frustrated, maybe it's just communicating that, instead of like building it up and letting it fester, but just to say like, I'm really frustrated right now, because these needs
Yeah.
of mine aren't being met. And I think too, like we now kind of have a shared language around stress. It's a model, like a stress continuum where there's like color codings and whatnot. And so
Oh,
like,
yeah. Please share.
yeah, well, I'm not going to teach on it because I'm not an expert, but like the green zone is like where you're ready to face life. You have the capacity to be resilient. You're doing fine.
Okay.
The yellow zone is where like, you're slightly irritated, stress is building a little bit. So you might be a little bit more moody or, have some overreactions, but in general, like you're
Mm-hmm.
dealing. And then orange is where like it's getting harder to cope and to deal. You're more depleted, you're more irritated,
Yeah.
all the things. And then red is
Alarm
like,
systems going off.
yes, yes. And then the red zone is like you're shutting down and
Yeah.
you're at your breaking point.
Okay.
Um, and I've gotten to red before.
Yep.
But now like being able to say like, hey, Dennis, like I'm
Mm.
pushing from yellow to orange right now. Like I need a break and this is what I need. I need a morning to clean the house by myself without kids making a mess
Mm.
as I'm doing it, Um,
Yeah.
so finding a language that works for you and your spouse, whether it's something like that or, something else. But for us, it's also a military model. I think it was developed for the Marines, but
Okay.
many soldiers like relate to like this
Yeah.
combat zones of readiness. Um, so it works for us. But yeah, I think communicating my needs and my frustrations has also been another way that I've helped to like fight against that resentment building. Yeah.
Mm. That's really good. That's super helpful to even that's a helpful example of having a shared language around how
Yeah.
you communicate where you're at. One of the
Yeah.
things that I've heard of is what percent are you at?
Yeah.
If you're at 100%, um, you're doing great. You're firing on all cylinders. If you're at
Mhm.
10%, you're on empty. And so
Mhm.
something that Nate and I will say to each other sometimes is like, all right, I'm at 70%. He comes home, he's at 10%. I'm like, all right, I got it. Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I can take tonight or vice versa.
Mhm.
If I'm running on low and he's feeling good after that day, he's so great about being like, all right, I'm gonna put the girls to bed. I'm gonna clean up the kitchen. Like you
Mhm.
go to bed early kind of
Mhm.
thing. Um, so communicating that. What do you guys do when you're both on orange or you're both down low?
What do we do to help that or
Like
no.
how
Yes, no,
because
I hear what you're
obviously
saying.
like one person can't
Yeah.
is not the
Well,
strong one in that situation,
yeah.
right?
Right. Well, I think actually, yeah, that's a great question. And we don't operate well. I mean, we
Yeah.
probably give our kids electronics and tablets for 5 hours that day so that we
Yeah.
both can just like veg on the couch or, escape in our own way. He goes to work out and I do something, so
Yeah.
we do what we need to survive that day. Um,
Okay.
and it might not be um, a Instagram worthy day.
Yeah.
It's like, and I guess that's another thing about resilience is that resilience is messy and it's not
Mhm.
perfect. And so
Mm.
like you're gonna have days where you overreact
Mm.
and you blow a gasket and both are running on empty. And the goal is to not let that be every day or every week. But so yeah, I would say like if we're both on orange for an extended period of time, then we really need to like check what we're
Mm.
doing here,
Yeah.
And for me, like I mean, that was another reason why I am now like more embracing staying at home without added work projects because like when my husband deployed in 2024, I stepped away from working entirely because I just didn't need one more responsibility to push me to orange or to red.
Yeah.
And so then it just, I think if you and your spouse or your family are like operating in the orange for a more consistent period of time, then it's like reevaluating decisions and involvements, or things
Yeah.
like that, or
That's
behaviors,
awesome.
or maybe we've been watching too much TV at night instead of like taking care of the needs that we need to take care of.
That makes sense. That reminded me of something my aunt said to me. She was on a previous episode and she coaches executives, and she one of the things that she teaches is, does your life have margin for
Mm,
joy, and does
mhm,
your life have margin for grief? And if
mm,
you literally have no time
mhm,
to to include those things and to have that margin in your life, then you're too full. You need to
mm,
dial back. So I thought that was
mhm,
really interesting because
mhm,
we do need time to be able to process those things or to celebrate things. And then another thing that I wanted to point out is on the topic of being comfortable to share your expectations and to share your frustrations with your spouse. That
mhm,
all comes from you believing that you're worth
mm, mhm,
those things.
mhm,
If you believe that your spouse is the most important person in your relationship, which
mhm.
you both are. You both are.
Right,
You are
right.
just as important, and you are worth feeling good. You are
Mhm,
worth having time. You are worth
mhm,
being a whole healthy person. And if
mhm,
you don't believe that and you just kind of go into that mindset of like, oh, I'm just going to sacrifice, I'm just going to sacrifice. Yes, you might be in a season of really
mhm,
sacrificing,
mhm,
and that's okay, but you are still worth having those conversations. And I think
mhm,
that's something that we have to remember
mhm.
is we're not just, it's a balance, right? Like
Right.
you want to sacrifice
Mhm,
and sometimes you have to, but you're also still worth having those conversations and still being
mhm,
heard and
mhm,
still worth feeling good
mhm.
and still
Yeah.
worth having community, right?
Yes, yeah.
But
Yeah, so you're worth prioritizing yourself too. I think that
yeah.
took me some time, especially as a mom, that took a lot of time to realize and embrace.
Mm.
Um, I have a few more things I could share about resentment, like
Yeah. Oh,
if you
please.
don't mind. Yeah, I actually really appreciated this question and reflecting on it this week, because I was like, what do I do? And I think sometimes like that is also part of like resilience, is reflecting on things so that you can do it more
Mm.
intentionally. So like
Mhm.
we might do things that are effective, but if they're not like conscious behaviors, then we don't know how to like use them as a strategy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this
Great point.
reflection this week helped me to like, oh, what do I do? Um we've been talking about sacrifice. So my husband was deployed in 2024 for he only did 7 months because of a PCS, and so he came back
Okay.
early. So I was solo parenting for 7 months, and obviously we know there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that for a military spouse, especially when you have children, even if you don't have children. Well, then we PCSed across the country, and now his current job, he's TDY, like I don't know exactly, but at least half the month. Like he's gone for a week, he might be home for a few days, he's gone for a few days, he's back. So his primary job is to go see his units that are spread around the world. And that there was a lot of resentment right away when we started this
Mhm.
assignment, because I was like, you were just gone and I was holding down the house, the fort, and
Yeah.
now I'm doing it again. And like, so I was angry, I was frustrated, I was resentful. And I
Mhm.
was because I just felt like I was sacrificing so much, especially because we left JBLM where I loved our life. And so
Mm.
that was another
Yeah.
thing that I saw as like a sacrifice. Like I
Yeah.
sacrificed
Sure.
leaving a community that was so rich for our family,
Mhm.
to be uprooted. But anyway, so what I found, in this season to help me with the resentment that I noticed was reframing the way that I was seeing
Mm.
sacrifice. Um, so like instead of focusing on what I was giving up, I was shifting my mindset then to like what what I have. So it's like, gratitude too,
Yeah.
like
Sure.
um And so, yeah, I think just reframing it as like, but look what I get to do. I get to stay home with my 3-year-old. I get to focus. So I don't have this rich social life like I had at JBLM, perhaps, not yet anyway. But that means that I get to spend quality time with my family and really invest in our core relationships. And I get to have time to focus on my health. So I guess seeing
Mm-hmm.
what I'm grateful for in that. That's been really helpful. Um, and then
Absolutely.
and then the other piece is, and this was big growth for me, is realizing that it's hard for my spouse too.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and
That's so true.
Yeah,
That's so true.
I I think what finally helped me to realize it is because my husband kept saying it. Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't love missing
Mm-hmm.
the big events either. I don't wanna
Yeah.
miss that game or that birthday or that, but, like, even when he's traveling, he's going to eat at a steakhouse and I'm, eating pizza for the 5th
Yeah.
night in a row. So you see them when they're deployed and they're on TDY or whatever, you see them maybe having fun and it's easy to get
Mm-hmm.
resentful for that. But, just realizing like being away from us is really hard for him. And the travel really does exhaust him. And his job, like, oh, by the way, it is really hard. Like I
Yeah.
think I'm so like self-focused and
Mm-hmm.
self-centered sometimes that only like fuels my resentment. So when I get like outside of myself and realize like, okay, this is hard on him too. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's been a big one for me recently.
That's really good. It's really easy to convince yourself just by default, like,
Yeah.
oh, like they're loving it, like they get
Yeah.
all this stuff, and I get,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the only one struggling here. And it's so
Yeah.
true though. It's hard to stay mad when you realize that they're also hurting in some ways too.
Yeah. Yeah. They're definitely making sacrifices as well, and sacrifices that I'm
Mm-hmm.
not making or not having to make. And so recognizing that can be really helpful.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's something I feel like that piggybacking on that, something that I feel like I do quite often is reminding myself that we are choosing this
Hmm.
together as a
Yes.
family.
Yeah. Yeah.
We signed up for this together. And maybe not
Hmm.
every spouse can say that, but we did.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so reminding myself, you know what? He could actually get out.
Hmm. Hmm.
I could, you know what I mean? Like I could actually go get a full-time job
Right.
and X, Y, and Z, but what
Hmm.
at what cost? And so
Right.
reminding myself that I'm not a prisoner. I'm not actually a
Yes.
prisoner in this situation.
Right.
Um, and there are things that I can control. And when I can't control X, Y, and Z because this is the life we've chosen,
Hmm.
what are the things I can control? Oh,
Mm.
I can control me taking my kids out on a trip. I can
Exactly.
go see my parents. I can go, you know what I mean? I
Yes.
can I can do all these like getting creative with what you can control. I feel
Hmm.
like is really helpful, and that all came from you saying
Mm.
that resentment is unmet expectations and feeling out of
Mhm.
control. So
Mhm.
what can you
Mhm.
control,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, and one of our basic human needs is a need for autonomy or choice.
Yeah.
And military spouse, in our life, it can feel like we don't
Mhm.
have control over our lives and we don't have choice. And so what I love that you just mentioned is that we might not have control over and choice over everything, where we live or the schedule our husbands or spouses
Yeah.
work, but we can make choices. And so, how can we build some autonomy into our life so that that need is being met and so that we can endure the rest of it?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. I wanted to ask you about resilience specifically when it comes to kids
Mm,
because you have so much experience, with 3 kids under 3, especially, like, as you're working on your doctorate, um,
hmm
at like, being a military spouse. When How did your kids handle the deployments and the TDYs, and, like, did you see that affecting them? And how did it, like, where did they start to act out because they missed their
Mhm.
dad? And like, were you ever
Mhm.
worried about that? And how did that all turn out? I would just
Mhm.
love
Mhm.
to hear from your experience on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I want to preface this, or maybe as a disclaimer, that anything I know about psychology or resilience, when it comes to my kids, I feel like I know nothing. So
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
it's not an
That's
easy
super
transfer.
encouraging.
It's not
Yeah.
an easy transfer. I feel like I'm getting a different degree in that. But we were very blessed that in the early years of my kids' lives, my husband happened to be in non-deployable units.
Okay.
He was deployed when our first was a baby. But
Okay.
then after that, he was at ROTC, and then he was at the Sergeant Major Academy, and then we went to the Old Guard at Fort Myer, which is a non-deployable unit. So we had
Okay.
a good chunk of time where we were very blessed. He wasn't always home, but he was home more so than not. Um, so our first, like I would say, true deployment as a family was at out of JBLM in 2 years ago. So my kids' ages at the time, we had just had our fourth. So um,
Wow.
my youngest was like 4 months old or something at the time, and and then I had a 4, 5, I don't know, 5, 6, and 8 or something like that. Anyway,
Wow.
two
Mhm.
were in school and two were at home with me.
Okay.
So yeah, like the going through the deployment, it was interesting. God, I kind of it makes me smile how God prepared me and our family for that experience, because I had just spent 4 years of my professional career writing curriculum on deployment cycle resilience. And so
Wow.
I was studying it. I was
Yeah.
writing the training manuals for service member resilience, but also we had curriculum for military spouses or significant others. And so I was like,
That's
okay, God,
crazy.
like you prepared me for this. Now,
Yes.
now I take the test. Now I have to put
Yeah.
this to the test. And so that really helped me to see it as like an opportunity rather than this like
Mm.
big challenge. In adversity. I mean, I knew it was going to obviously be hard. I knew that, but I also went in knowing like what supports and what I needed to be able to endure this in a way that didn't negatively impact our family's well-being.
Okay.
Sometimes you do just have to survive, but I
Yeah.
wanted to come out of it, feeling stronger. And so for us, I would say like the number one thing that helped us, the family and my kids, was having community,
Okay.
and really leaning into the community. And that's something that I know
Yeah.
we haven't, touched on, emphasized yet about resilience, but
Yeah.
that's another thing that I've learned from the years when I was training and teaching resilience to the years of living the life of a military spouse. It's that resilience does not mean that you rely on your own strength. Resilience
Mm.
means, yes, there are some things that you need to do,
Mhm.
or can do to help yourself cope with things, but ultimately, like military family life is a team sport, and we need each other. So
Yeah.
the whole like
Absolutely.
slogan, stronger together, like I really embraced that during that deployment season. And my kids, I think that's what benefited my kids was that, you know, from our neighborhood, we had a great neighborhood where kids played together, but also where the other adults interacted with my kids. And so,
Yeah.
our their friends' dads were also like
Mm.
loving on them and not replacing their dad or, my husband,
Sure.
but they were still like being embraced from the community and from our church and from just like friendships, like the spouse groups, getting together. So um,
Mhm.
I don't think I directly answered your question about the kids, but I think just like focusing on our family health and leaning into community and the resources that we had. Um, and kind of like you had said, like making those choices, like we're not going to like just sit in the house and cry about
Mhm.
this. Like we're going to go out and have adventures, and we're going to
Yeah.
we're going to Mount Rainier, just us,
Yes.
Sadly,
It's an
dad
hour and a
has to
half
miss out,
away.
but we're going to do
Yep.
it. Yeah. Um, So yeah, just allowing us to thrive. Like, it's okay for us to have fun when dad's gone. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I don't know. Does that kind of answer
Oh,
that
yeah.
question a bit? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to be okay, right? Can you
Yeah.
tell us they're going to be okay?
Yes, they're going to be okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, and nowadays too, with like the technology and the
Mm-hmm.
deployments, they were able to video chat. They were able to stay
Mm,
in touch. It's so there's things you can do to, um, yeah, to help the kids, I guess, through it. But they will be
that's
okay. I mean,
awesome.
there will be hard days, there will be hard weeks. I was definitely like not looking, but like I'd communicate with the teachers to say like, hey, dad just left or dad's been gone for a while. Like this might be going on. Let me know if you see any behaviors. Um, so you're more attuned to it. But yeah, I think I don't want to say this. It's commonly said like, "Oh, kids are resilient." And that's
Yeah.
actually something just like military spouses are resilient. Like, I don't believe resilience should ever be used as a label because then that puts pressure
Mm,
and expectations on us
okay.
to push through and, embrace the suck. I think that, um, I don't know. I haven't found a saying to like replace that, but I definitely don't like to use that because I think it can, um, put some pressure on them. I mean, it's kind of like label like then that means I have to be, and that means that I have to be positive all the time, and
Mm-hmm.
um that's not fair. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I think what what I take away with what you could replace that with is we're not that kids are resilient, but we're stronger together, like you said.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and like, I mean, what we know, I do read, a lot of parenting books and whatnot. And I think
Yeah.
right now too, like, we can't shield our kids from
Mm-hmm.
going through hard things, and we shouldn't want to, because
Sure.
and
Yeah.
maybe this is getting like, resilience is built through
Mm-hmm.
going through hard things.
Mm-hmm.
It, like, resilience is a it's a byproduct of going through challenges, and
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a muscle, and
Yep.
so we're exercising during the hard times for the kids, for us, like, we're just exercising that muscle. And so
Mm-hmm.
um not that I'd ever want to, like, you know uh make hard things happen for my kids, but we can't protect them from that, and we shouldn't want to, because they need that for development and growth.
Absolutely. We want
Yeah.
capable kids.
Yeah.
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 Oh, that's so good. So one
Mhm.
thing that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the phrase "I can do it."
Mm.
And I've been thinking a lot lately about how do I haven't fully processed this, but I wanted to share.
Mhm.
Give me a second. It's almost never I can do it. It's almost always we can do it.
Mhm.
And I think that that is so true. Like especially as a military spouse.
Mhm.
Like don't try to do it all yourself.
Mhm. Mhm.
Like maybe that's a
Yeah.
little bit overhyped.
Yes. Yeah.
I can do it. Replace that with we
Yeah.
can do it. Because what does that mean? That means that you have to find community. It
Mhm.
takes that pressure off of like, I have to do this all myself. I have to grit and grind this out. But who can I do this with? Who
Mhm.
can my people be that like
Mhm.
support me and come around me?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I have a hat now. It says we can do it.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um Yeah, I honestly, I feel like that's been my biggest source of resilience through these last few years of my military spouse life, is the community aspect, and that it's a like, resilience is a team sport,
Mhm.
military life is a team sport, and we need other people, and other people need us. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, I mean, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with saying I can do this, or like,
Sure. Sure.
I say I can do hard things, like, I can
Yes.
do this. Like, I said it yesterday,
Yes.
putting together my kids' little ride on Jeep. I was like, this
Yep.
looks hard. I was like, I can do this. Um,
Yes.
so,
I can do
so
hard
yeah,
things. Yeah.
I can do this. I can do hard things, but I don't have to do it alone. So we can
Mhm.
do this, and it's more fun to do it with other people. Um,
Yep.
And we need other people to validate our experience, like, and to say, yes, this is hard and you're allowed to feel that way.
That's good. Okay, Michelle. Final question. In what ways do you hope to leave your mark on the military community? And what do you wish that every soldier or family knew?
Hmm. I think just what we just talked about. I think it's that
Mhm.
you don't have to do this alone and that we do need other people. Um, the military, while it does come at a cost and there's lots of sacrifices, there's also so much opportunity in it and there's so many benefits. And so, like, leaning
Mhm.
into those benefits, whether it's, I mean, I use the health coaching through Military One Source. I use local resources all the time. Um, they're there for us and they're free, just taking advantage of those. But yeah, I think it's like embracing that the village mindset and find your people, and that can be really hard, especially when you PCS. And I'll share just like real quickly, like when we left JBLM, where I had this really like rich community. It took me a while to be ready to find that, and I think that is common. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's just like you're just shut off. Like I just don't want to meet new friends because I don't want to say goodbye
Yeah.
again, and like it felt very different for me to not plug in right away here and not try to find my person here. But I
Mhm.
had friendships, long distance friends who were
Mhm.
sustaining me, and sustaining that need for like the social and the community connection aspect. But now that I am like open to like investing in relationships here, I am realizing like, oh yeah, we do need people where we're
Mhm.
at. We do need
Mhm.
to root ourselves where we are and find a sense of belonging where we are. So I guess in that note, I just say like it's okay to take your time and grieve what you've lost before you're ready to be open for the next. But the bottom line, though, is that we need each other and resilience is fueled through connection. So, um, yeah, reach out.
That's so good. Oh, thank you, Michelle. This was amazing. I'm so grateful for you. Where can people, if they have questions, can people email you? Can they reach out? Where could people find you and connect?
Yeah, I suppose the best way would be through Facebook. I'm old, so I use Facebook mostly. um, you can find me there, send me a message. My email, you can email me as well. You're welcome to message me either way.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Michelle. This was such a treat.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening. You can find highlights, teasers, tips and tricks, and even more encouragement at ldf.pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. By the way, if you'd like to see a specific guest on the podcast, maybe someone you follow or an author or speaker that you love, send me a message and I'll try my best to get them on. Most importantly, if this show is genuinely adding to your life, don't forget to write a written review sharing why you love this podcast. This could really just be one sentence. This is the most impactful way to support the podcast, support me, and get these conversations into more women's lives. Okay, that's it for now. See you guys next time.